Hello and welcome to this video in the CPA Way series. Ethics, leadership, trust, and integrity. These interrelated characteristics are the ideal to which all CPAs aspire. Yet ethical behavior is not as simple as it might seem. Suppose your boss pressures you to make an accounting entry that you think is wrong, or you learn that a friend and colleague has included personal costs in a business expense account, or you are a board member challenging other board members on an ethical issue. Would you know how to reason through the issues and alternatives and make an ethical decision in these situations? Would you be driven to behave ethically? Would you have the courage and fortitude to persist? Would you be willing to take an action that might lead to negative personal repercussions, such as losing a job, promotion, or friend? Would you risk becoming an outcast? Before jumping into the details of how to address an ethical problem, think about what ethical behavior involves. Ethical behavior means both thinking and doing the right thing. You must be proficient at ethical reasoning, be motivated to act ethically, and possess the ethical character to persevere. Let's look at how you can use the CPA way to address situations involving ethics. As always, you first embrace the CPA mindset. You can think of this as putting on your professional hat, consisting of the attitudes and behaviors, especially the ethics, of the CPA. You must have the right mindset to be prepared to behave ethically. The CPA mindset encompasses professional attitudes and behaviors from three major sources. First, the rules of professional conduct provide ethical standards. CPAs are required to comply with the rules which prohibit certain behaviors, such as an ownership interest in an audit client, and require other behaviors, such as reporting certain ethical breaches. Second, the enabling competencies provide guidance, especially Enabling Competency 1, Professional and Ethical Behavior, which requires you to use an ethical reasoning process, adopt the profession's values, maintain a stakeholder focus, and adhere to laws, professional standards, and policies. Finally, the CPA mindset embraces integration. A CPA routinely uses enabling skills when applying technical competencies, links knowledge from different technical areas, and incorporates and adapts to situational information. Integration increases the likelihood that ethical issues will be uncovered, analyzed thoroughly, and resolved appropriately. The second part of the CPA way is to assess the situation, which you can think of as creating a preliminary picture of the landscape before you begin detailed work. Your purpose is to understand the problem well enough to plan your work. It includes recognizing ethical issues, identifying key factors, and planning the work to be performed. What are some of the situational factors that you might zoom in on for an ethical issue? The most important aspect of assessing the situation might be recognizing that you are facing an ethical issue. Imagine looking through the lens of your camera, searching for possible situations that can lead to harm or that might be viewed as wrong or immoral. Ethical issues often arise because decision-maker goals and objectives conflict with the CPA's ethical principles or with the interests of other stakeholders. Ethical issues frequently involve a wide range of stakeholders, perhaps the community or environment. You might need to consider an expanded view of needs and preferences such as dignity, rights, and fairness. Ethical constraints, in other words, constraints to prevent unethical behavior, include rules of professional conduct, laws and regulations, society norms, organizational policies, procedures and norms, and individual ethics. Professional resources include the rules of professional conduct. Other key situational factors include conditions that increase the risk of unethical behaviors such as inadequate corporate governance, negative operating trends, performance-based pay, and operations across diverse cultures. Any other information that might be useful for evaluating the existence or impact of potential ethical issues, such as harms and benefits or duties and rights. The third part of the CPA way is to analyze major issues, which you can think of as looking through your camera and seeing many different paths for exploring the ethical issue. Your goal is to thoroughly explore these paths so that you can gain a deep understanding of the issue to support conclusions and anticipate potential problems. Analysis for an ethical issue includes detailed exploration of relevant factors identified during the situational assessment. A major aspect of analyzing an ethical issue involves scrutinizing ethical constraints to determine whether alternatives are ethically prohibited or ethically permitted. This analysis includes exploring relevant rules of professional conduct, laws and regulations, society norms, organizational policies, procedures and norms, and your own individual ethics. The fourth part of the CPA Way is to conclude and advise, which you can think of as adding value to earn a handshake from your internal customer or external client at the end of a service relationship. Your goal has been to address the decision-maker's needs, but to do so only in an ethical way. Thus, concluding and advising for an ethical issue is similar to the process for other major issues, but with special attention to ethical behavior. An ethically permitted alternative should satisfy, at a minimum, all of these decision criteria. First, ethical alternatives should satisfy all ethical constraints. Second, ethical alternatives should be expected to cause no unjustified harm to people or stakeholder groups. Third, ethical alternatives involve actions that individuals, the CPA profession, relevant stakeholders, and society would typically view as good or right. And finally, ethical alternatives avoid rationalizations such as, if it's legal, it's proper, or it's not my job to interfere. Any alternative that satisfies all of these criteria would be ethically permitted. Sometimes more than one alternative is ethically permitted, or no alternative satisfies all of the criteria. Then you must choose the most ethical alternative. The last part of the CPA Way is to communicate. For ethical issues, your main communication goals are the same as for any other problem. You want to ensure that internal customers or external clients understand you and are encouraged to act on your advice. However, when providing advice about an ethical issue, you might need to persuade others to recognize the harmful effects of doing the wrong thing and/or face negative repercussions. You might also need to confront an organizational culture that encourages people to rationalize unethical behavior. Strong communication skills, along with other enabling competencies such as conflict management, will help you communicate as persuasively as possible. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. You can watch other videos to learn more about each part of the CPA Way.